Entrepreneurs, look at me right now. Imagine you're in the middle of chaos, your back against a wall, your mind racing, your spirit flickering, and then you feel it, that pulse, that undeniable clarity. That's what this is, the moment someone arrives, not when it's convenient, but when it matters most. That's when the real game begins. It's the ability to be rescued when the world stops clapping, when the cheers go silent, when the very people who once said, "We believe in you," begin to look the other way. That's the moment, the breaking point. That's when this shows up, not as a favor, not as charity, but as a necessity, a rescue engine built for the battlefield, not the boardroom. You see, every entrepreneur hits that wall, that invisible line where motivation dies and momentum feels like fiction. The sleepless nights begin to taste like regret. Your confidence, once sky high, is now a hostage to your failures. You try to fake it. Smile for the team, nod in meetings, pitch like you believe. But deep down you're empty. And right there in that void is when most people crash. They quit, quietly, without announcements. Without applause, but not you. Because something finds you. Not a person, not a platform, a force, built to locate the broken, the bruised, the brave who refuse to surrender. This isn't an app. It's not a video course. This is oxygen for the drowning. It's a flare fired into the sky that says, "You are not alone, get up, let's go again." Because here's the truth no one says out loud. Entrepreneurship is violent. It's emotionally violent. It will break your back while smiling at your ambition. It will praise you on Monday and betray you by Thursday. It will lure you in with freedom, then chain you to responsibility. And unless you've built something strong enough to pull you out, to rescue you, you will become another story people tell about the one who almost made it. But the rescue engine doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't ask you how you're feeling. It doesn't beg you to believe. It shows up, uninvited, unapologetic, unrelenting. It shows up when the funding round collapses. It shows up when your co-founder walks away. It shows up when you stare at your phone praying for a sale that never comes. And what does it do? It doesn't carry you. It equips you. Because real rescue doesn't mean doing it for you. It means putting the weapon back in your hand and saying, "Fight again." But here's what makes it dangerous. It doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't wear a cape. It whispers when everything else is screaming. It says, "You've been here before, and you're still standing." It reminds you that resilience is not something you post about. It's something you bleed for. It's something you earn, and the engine. It doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't feed your ego. It feeds your fire. You want sympathy, call your mother. You want victory. Start the engine, because the rescue engine only works for those who are still willing. Willing to wake up one more time. Willing to pick up the phone, launch the campaign, stand on the stage, knock on the door, take the risk again. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. There's a moment when every empire builder must decide whether the dream is bigger than the disappointment, whether the purpose can survive the pain, whether what they're building is worth being broken for. That moment is not theoretical. That moment is real, and when it hits, you will hear a sound, a quiet roar, a pulse that cuts through the noise. That's the engine, that's the rescue, that's your moment, because this finds the ones who still want it, who still need it, who still believe it's possible, even if everything around them says it's not. People don't fail because they didn't try. They fail because they moved at the wrong time. They had the right idea, the right skill, the right hunger, but the wrong clock. And in this game, that costs everything. Timing isn't just a tool. It's the whole engine. It's the difference between being legendary or forgotten. The world won't wait for you. It never has, and it never will. Timing doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't stop because you had a rough week. It doesn't pause because you're almost ready. It moves with or without you, and those who win, they learn to move with it, before the applause, before the signs, before the world gives them permission. You see, the myth they sold you is that you need to wait. Wait until you're confident. Wait until you're perfect. Wait until someone else validates your vision. And so you wait, and while you wait, someone with less talent, less knowledge, less backing, but more urgency launches. And while they build, you prepare, and while they fail, learn, pivot, and grow. You're still getting ready. Success doesn't wait for the most qualified. It lands on the most available, the ones who show up even when it's inconvenient. The ones who say yes when it's terrifying, because here's what they never told you. The window doesn't stay open forever. It opens for a moment, just long enough for the brave to jump through. And when it shuts, no amount of potential will break it open again. So let me say it clear. Timing is not about luck. It's about alignment. Alignment of mindset, momentum, and movement. If your mindset is right, but your actions are still in neutral, you lose. If your actions are running, but your purpose is unclear, you lose. But when it all clicks, when your fire, your focus, and your fight move in sync, that's when the door swings open and you don't knock. You kick it down. Most people aren't late because the opportunity didn't come. They're late because they were too distracted to see it, too caught up in their own fear to recognize the moment when it arrived. Because let's be honest, it rarely comes wrapped in comfort. It often shows up disguised as pressure, chaos, or inconvenience. And that's where timing lives, in the tension, in the friction, in the spaces no one wants to enter. And if you're waiting for the perfect moment, you've already missed it. The perfect moment doesn't exist. There is no silence before the storm to get your bearings. There's noise, there's stress, there's uncertainty, and you have to move anyway. The greats didn't wait. They launched in the storm. They built the ship while steering it. They burned the excuses and bet on urgency, not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. The world rewards speed with accuracy, not speed with chaos, but speed with intention. When your vision is clear and your timing is sharp, your actions don't look rushed. They look inevitable. And when the time comes, because it will come, everything inside you will want to hesitate. You'll hear the voice, wait, think, plan. But there's a moment when thinking becomes procrastination, when planning becomes paralysis. That's when timing turns on you. That's when the clock you ignored becomes your enemy. So understand this. The game is played in milliseconds, in the blink between fear and faith. And if you're not bold enough to move when your gut says move, you'll spend your life watching others live the life you were built for. You'll convince yourself it wasn't meant for you, but deep down you'll know. It was. You just hesitated, you blinked, and the window closed. Those who rise, rise because they move first. Not always smartest, not always strongest, but first. They don't wait to be ready. They make readiness irrelevant. They don't wait for signs. They become the sign, so the next time that moment comes, and it will, don't flinch, don't pause, don't pray for the timing to be right. Make it right, because in this game, time doesn't care about your dreams. It only respects your decisions. Everyone wants to lead. Everyone wants to speak. Everyone wants to be followed. But the truth is, no one follows a voice that doesn't understand their pain. No one listens to a message that hasn't bled. You can't lead people through a storm you've never stood in. You can't pull someone out of fire when your hands are still soft. Because when people are hurting, really hurting, they're not looking for perfection. They're not impressed by theory. They're searching for truth. And truth doesn't come with degrees. It comes with scars. That's what makes it real. That's what gives it weight. That's what makes people stop scrolling, stop doubting, stop running, and listen. Empathy without backbone is weakness. Authority without compassion is arrogance. The magic lives in the balance, in the collision of both, when you can look someone in the eyes and say, I know where you are. I've been there, but I didn't stay there, and neither will you. That's when things move. People are tired of empty noise. They're drowning in advice from people who have never built anything, never risked anything, never lost anything. It's easy to quote motivation when you've never had to choose between payroll and rent. It's easy to preach resilience when your comfort was never on the line. But entrepreneurs, the real ones, see through that in seconds. They don't want noise. They want navigation. And you can't navigate a storm you've only seen from the shore. This is why empathy matters. Because when someone is in pain, they don't just want to be told what to do. They want to feel seen, to be acknowledged, to know that their struggle is valid, that their fear isn't weakness, that their doubt doesn't disqualify them, that what they're feeling is not insanity. It's entrepreneurship, and only those who have stood in the fire can say, that and be believed. But empathy alone isn't enough. Because once you've seen them, really seen them, you have to lead them, you have to have the map, the clarity, the experience that says, let's move now. That's authority, not the title, not the mic, not the followers. Authority is the quiet certainty that comes from doing the work, from living the war, from earning your voice, not being given one. Authority that isn't earned becomes control, but authority born in service, that becomes power. So when you show up with both, when you bring heart and edge, people follow you not because they're told to, but because they trust you. They trust that you get it. They trust that you've built something real. And they trust that when they fall, you won't step over them. You'll lift them. And that changes everything, because the world doesn't need another loud voice. It needs a true one, the kind that cuts through the noise with precision. The kind that says, I've carried what you're carrying, but I chose not to let it define me. And now I'm here to walk with you until you choose the same. That's leadership. That's the fusion. Empathy makes you relatable. Authority makes you credible. One without the other is hollow, but together they create transformation. They ignite belief. They give the entrepreneur, the builder, the fighter, permission to rise. Because that's all most people need, not a miracle, not a rescue, just someone who can speak to their pain with clarity and strength. Someone who can stand in the mess and still point to the mountain. Someone who doesn't just say, I believe in you, but shows them why they should believe in themselves. And if you've walked the path, if you've built through blood and doubt, then you have a responsibility. Not to shout, but to speak. Not to impress, but to impact. You were not broken so you could sit on your story. You were broken so you could build bridges, so you could lead others across, because what you survived. That's the proof. That's the gift. That's the difference. Empathy connects. Authority moves, but together they lead. There comes a point when help is not enough. Not because help isn't good. Not because help isn't needed. But because real builders, real entrepreneurs, real fighters, they don't want a handout. They want a breakthrough. They don't want to be picked up and pitied. They want to be pushed forward, and that's the difference. The world is full of aid. What it lacks is transformation. Aid is easy. It makes you feel better in the moment. It soothes the wound, calms the fear, holds your hand for a while. But transformation, that's different. That doesn't just patch the surface. It breaks everything apart and rebuilds it stronger. It doesn't hold your hand. It rewires your spine. Because if all we offer people is comfort, we train them to stay small. If all we give is support, we teach them to survive, but never thrive. You don't need another motivational speech. You don't need another polite conversation that tells you you're doing your best. You need a mirror. A match, a message that forces you to say, I can't live like this anymore. Because that's the moment, the pivot, the beginning of transformation, and it's violent, it's uncomfortable, it's necessary. Transformation doesn't start when you feel good. It starts when you get honest, when you finally tell yourself the truth. This version of me isn't enough for where I want to go. And when you do that, everything changes. Your habits, your circle, your priorities, your standard. It all shifts, because you realize that aid might keep you from drowning, but transformation teaches you how to swim upstream, how to command the current. Most people don't want to be transformed, they want to be rescued, and that's why they stay stuck. They wait for the hero to show up, for the market to change, for someone to validate their potential. And while they wait, life keeps moving. The opportunity disappears. The momentum fades, because life doesn't reward the passive. It rewards the responsible. When transformation enters, it doesn't knock. It kicks the door in. It drags you out of your comfort zone. It looks you in the face and asks, are you ready to leave behind everything that's holding you back? And that's not poetic. That's literal. The behaviors, the beliefs, the excuses, they all go. Because transformation doesn't coexist with the old you. It replaces you, and you can't fake it. You can fake effort. You can fake performance. You can fake results for a while. But you can't fake transformation, because it shows. It speaks before you open your mouth. It walks into a room before you do. It's in your tone, your posture, your presence. People know when you've changed. Not because you said it, but because you became it. So if you're building something, if you're standing on the edge of your next level, stop looking for aid. Start demanding transformation. Stop asking for help that makes you feel safe. Start asking for tools that make you dangerous, because that's what this is. Not therapy, not comfort, not emotional safety nets. This is fire. This is tension. This is the forge. And if you're brave enough to step inside, you don't come out the same. You come out sharper, clearer, unshakable. Most people fear the cost of transformation. They ask, what will I lose? The real question is, what will you gain? What version of you is waiting on the other side of this discomfort? What future is trying to reach you, but can't because you're still holding on to the version of you that just wants to be helped? You weren't born to be helped. You were built to evolve, to stretch, to break, and then rebuild. So when you hear the call, don't ask if it will hurt. Ask if it will free you. Ask if it will grow you. Ask if it will unlock the parts of you that aid could never reach, because aid fixes. Transformation frees. Choose wisely. There comes a time when you stop asking for permission, not because you have all the answers, not because the fear disappears, but because the weight of staying where you are becomes heavier than the risk of moving forward. That moment, that's not inspiration, that's a call, a deep internal invitation, not to be better, not to impress, but to rise. This is not for everyone. This is for the ones who've been stuck at the edge for too long. For the ones who know they were built for more, but keep shrinking to make others comfortable. The ones who have spent years explaining their dreams to people who were never meant to understand them. The ones who keep dimming their fire to avoid being too much. No more. This is your permission slip to stop waiting, to stop hoping that someone will come and open the door for you, because here's the truth. You are the door. And every minute you spend knocking is a minute you could have been walking through it. But you can't walk through anything when your knees are still shaking from the opinions of people who don't even matter. So here's the invitation, not to be perfect, but to be powerful, not to impress, but to impact, not to blend in, but to finally become. This isn't for the faint-hearted. This is for the ones who are done negotiating with average. The ones who understand that discomfort isn't a sign to stop, it's a sign to begin. Because rising hurts. It breaks things. It costs you people. It costs you excuses. It costs you the safety of the small life you've built just to avoid disappointing anyone. But the price of playing small, that invoice comes later. It arrives in regret. It shows up in mediocrity. It lives in your silence when someone else builds what you were born to lead. This world doesn't need another echo. It needs a voice, a roar, yours. But you've got to be bold enough to speak before you're certain, to lead before you're celebrated, to start before you're ready. Because the people we remember, the ones who shifted the world, they didn't rise because it was comfortable. They rose because it was necessary. That's the difference. The ones who rise don't wait for the green light. They become the signal. The ones who rise don't wait for backup. They become the foundation. They stop hoping for support and start building systems. They stop praying for momentum and start becoming the spark. You think your rise is about you? No. It's about everyone who will come after you. Everyone who will look at your example and say, if they did it, so can I. Because your rise isn't just a win. It's a wake-up call to your family, to your team, to your industry, to the future you've been postponing. And it's not going to feel like a parade. It's going to feel like war. But you don't need to win the war today. You just need to show up like someone who can't lose. That's it. That's the choice. Stay down. Or stand up. Keep repeating the cycle, or break it. Keep waiting for the world to notice you, or become undeniable. This isn't a motivational speech. It's a mirror. And if you're looking at it, still breathing, still fighting, still believing in something, then you've already got what you need. All that's left is the rise. No one is coming to hand it to you. You are the one. The idea, the strategy, the blueprint, the energy. You are it. So don't ask if the world is ready for your rise. Ask if you're ready to stop hiding from it. And if the answer is yes, then walk like it, speak like it, build like it, move like it. You've been invited, not to join the crowd, but to rise above it. So here's my challenge to you. Don't wait for tomorrow's miracle or next week's inspiration. Let this be your moment when rescue arrives, not because you deserve it, because you demand it, when timing meets intention, when possibility meets momentum. This will find you when you need it most. And when it does, you rise. Will you?